Take aim at North Carolina. It's not the same storm it was about a week ago, but it is still packing winds of 80 miles an hour sustained. The hurricane hunters have been investigating overnight, and they have found the storm to be moving along to the west-northwest at the same rates. And again, the place that's threatened the most is eastern North Carolina. As we show you the satellite picture, you can see our storm churning offshore the coast of North Carolina there. And where you see the reds and the oranges and yellows there, that's where we have some of the heavier rains and the stronger winds associated with the storm circulating around the center of circulation, which is still a good 170 miles or so off to the east-southeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Latest from the Hurricane Center as of 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 34.6 north, 72.5 west. This is a Category 1 storm on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Top winds 80 miles an hour sustained. Hurricane hunters have been investigating, and they have not found a lot of high winds associated with this storm, so this is a minimal hurricane at the present time. Pressure 968 millibars, so the pressure has gone up just a notch there. There you can see the hurricane force winds, pretty big circulation around the center there, well offshore, but the tropical storm force winds, 39 miles an hour or greater, just tickling the coast of North Carolina. And as we check on the strike probabilities, again, the red zone there aimed right at eastern North Carolina and southeast Virginia. So in and near these red areas, you want to pay particular attention and be on the alert. Along the Outer Banks of North Carolina this morning is the Weather Channel's Jeff Morrow. And Jeff, we've been watching the skies get a little grayer behind you, and the winds seem to be picking up just a notch.
Yeah, they're picking up a little bit, Mark. There's no two ways about it. I'd estimate the winds here 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusting higher at times. We just had a report from some folks coming up from Buxton, North Carolina, that there was a little bit of overwash there along State Highway 12, just north of Rodanthe, but nothing that you couldn't travel through. But of course, it's not quite to high tide yet. High tide coming in at about noon to 1 o'clock along the Outer Banks today, and we expect that there will be more in the way of overwash there. Most of the folks gone already, Mark, and at least as far as the tourists are concerned, the hotel's closed as far as the tourists. It's only open because of some of the satellite truck operators and television stations want to do reports like we're doing here, but we're about the only people out on the beach today. The beach patrol has pretty much made sure that nobody goes in the ocean. It's just too dangerous.
We've had reports of, like you said, the minor overwash on the highway there, and the emergency management people are saying to get out by 10 a.m. because of the high tide coming in around noon.
That's right. It doesn't. They may even close down Hatteras Island south of here when it gets up toward high tide, because you may not be able to drive through there. That's a very common occurrence, really, here in the Outer Banks, to get a northeast wind, whether it be a hurricane or a nor'easter during the winter, to get that kind of overwash. They get it all the time here, but it looks like it may be impassable to get in or off Hatteras Island a little bit later on. I want to show you some scenes from last night and actually yesterday when we first came into the Outer Banks. We were looking at a pretty angry sea, much as we're looking at tonight, or we were looking at today, plus a lot of people boarding up, taking the precautions, trying to get prepared as much as they could for Felix, and it looks like they may have another 12 to 18 hours to maybe do some last minute preparations. Of course, a lot of folks heading out. A lot of the tourists heading out. Mandatory evacuations put into effect yesterday, so looks like we're pretty much alone out here on the Outer Banks. The tourists are gone. What we're looking at now is a shot of the ocean behind me. Still pretty angry seas. I'd estimate about 8 to 12 feet. A lot of spray coming off, and again, we expect it to get a lot angrier. And at the time of high tide, probably the surf coming right up to the dune line below me. So things probably getting worse before they get better. Mark?
Okay, Jeff, we can hear the thundering surf behind you right now, so we'll get another update to you for about a half hour and see how conditions are changing there. Let's give you a quick peek at the radar. Notice Jeff wasn't getting wet, so on the Doppler, you can see that the nearest rain bands are still off the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And again, just to recap, we do have the hurricane warnings from Little River Inlet north up to Chincoteague. And again, as the storm approaches, it means different things for different places along the mid-Atlantic coast. Southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina, there is potential for a significant storm surge when the center of circulation gets closer tonight. And with that, there's also potential for some very heavy rainfall, so not only tidal flooding, but fresh water flooding as well. And points farther north and south looks like you'll have to contend with tropical storm force winds and also the potential for more coastal flooding. Of course, heavy surf has been the major culprit out of the storm, as the storm has been moving slowly out across the Atlantic the past several days, so a lot of beaches are closed. Well, that's the latest that we have to report for you on Hurricane Felix. Hurricane hunters can continue to cruise around through the storm, and they'll be reporting back to us, and we'll report that back to you. We'll continue with our live coverage here every half hour.
It's been battered by the wind and now the rain in eastern North Carolina. Jeff, can you hear us there?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you, Mike.
As far as the tide, it's coming back in, and we expect those tides to be even higher this time around versus lunch today.
Yeah, at least as high, if not a little bit higher, Mike, and there was some damage reported, some beach erosion, and let's go ahead and show you some of what we're talking about here. This is down on Hatteras Island. This is south of the position I'm in now by about, oh, I'd say 10 to 15, maybe 20 miles at the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge. State Highway 12 gets very close to the ocean there. It's a spot that overwashes very frequently, and it did again today and even took out more of the dune line there. So that highway is completely closed. It has been since the high tide at about noon today. So you can't get on or off that island. The North Carolina State Patrol just won't let anybody down there. It's just too dangerous. You'd probably end up losing your car in the water because it's probably well over a foot to 2 feet deep on the highway in places there. Now to add to our earlier sandblasting woes here and gusty winds, if you can see me now, you can tell that we're getting finally a pretty healthy rain squall moving in as well.
Yeah, Jeff, we can tell that it's definitely raining there. Some of those outer rain bands now rolling in from the Atlantic from Hurricane Felix. Stu Ostro is here also in the Forecast Center. Stu?
Jeff, you've covered a number of these hurricanes. I grew up in New Jersey. It's quite a sight and a feel to be out there when the sea is fully arisen and gale force wind is blowing. Folks who have never really experienced that may not be able to appreciate it, but it's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Oh, it's an awesome sight when the ocean, like you said, is fully risen like that. And if it wasn't fully risen, it was almost all fully risen. We had waves out there today at least 8 to 12 feet, a healthy 8 to 12 feet with breakers out at least 200 to 250 yards out into the ocean. Well, at least as far as we could see, it got a little hazy, a lot of salt spray in the air. Very spectacular surf today. Nobody out in the water. A couple kids early this morning played in the shore break a little bit, but even they got beat up after a while and they decided to call it quits. And the beach patrol up and down the beach pretty much made sure that nobody was going to venture out into that surf. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, Jeff, we've noticed that the Hatteras area is virtually desolated, or I should say deserted, and maybe desolated, depending on what happens with Felix. Hopefully not, but not a lot of people left around. A few locals and a few news people, right?
Yeah, a lot of news people, as is per usual with this kind of a hurricane, landfalling hurricane. But just the local people, and there are a few of those, some thrill seekers here and there just to come down and see what it's like to be in a hurricane. The tourists, that's basically what the mandatory evacuations were for, and whatever locals wanted to take advantage of it, but mainly to get a lot of the tourists. And believe me, these islands, the Outer Banks, were packed, and the local economy gave up a lot of money to see those people go to safety.
Okay, Jeff, I think there was a few of us here in the Weather Channel Forecast Center who would love to be with you tonight. We're thrill seekers, too, when it comes to storms along the coast, growing up along the coast like Stu and I have. Stay dry. We'll check back with you in about a half an hour.
Okay.
We'll get back with you next half an hour, 10:30 Eastern. Now, Stu, let's talk a little bit about why Hurricane Felix has come to a screeching halt there in the Atlantic.
There are a couple of reasons, Mike, and I think we can illustrate this if we look at the screen. Maybe we can get the next frame up there. There we go. This is what we call the water vapor image. Basically, it shows us the depth of water vapor in the air, and what we're looking for here really is not the actual amount of moisture so much as the movement of weather systems. And if we look right in here, we can see everything rotating counterclockwise, or I'm sorry, clockwise.
Hurricane Felix has weakened just a tad tonight, but it has thrown on its brakes. It's not moving. Still a Category 1 hurricane. Thanks for tuning in. Mike Seidel here in the Weather Channel Forecast Center, along with senior forecaster Stu Ostro. And this is one of those storms we may be following into the weekend, easily into the weekend.
Tell you, Mike, we've been looking at the data this evening, trying to find some clues as to what its eventual movement will be and how quickly, but nothing in the data, nothing in the new computer information we're getting in suggests that this storm is going going to move very far anytime soon.
And that could be the key in the, what we want to say, not maybe devastation, but certainly the big problems along the coast as far as beach erosion and minor coastal flooding. I want to show you the satellite photo. There it is, the reds and oranges again on our infrared indicating the higher cloud tops. Now, Stu, it looks like over there on the northeastern periphery and the northern side of the storm, we're getting some flare-ups in the convection here late this evening.
Yeah, we do see a growing area of reds and oranges, the convection, the deep rain clouds. However, we don't...
And our Jeff Morrow has been sitting in the Outer Banks area, and he's been reporting live now going on 17 hours when we may have to send in some reinforcements for Jeff if the storm doesn't move. Jeff, tonight we've got the wind, the rain, and the sand blowing at you. What can you tell us as far as the tide as now it's coming back in towards the dune line?
Tide is coming back in, Mike. There's no two ways about it. That's inevitable. And with a big hurricane, not a big hurricane, but a Category 1 hurricane sitting right off the coast, you have to expect that there's going to be some beach erosion. We had our high tide earlier today at noon. We have another one coming up at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Let's show you some scenes from earlier today. I believe we have some video that was shot just south of here by about 20 to 30 miles. This is on the Hatteras Island across the Herbert C. Bonner Bridge down at the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge. A lot of erosion going on to the dune line there. This is an area that oftentimes gets flooded due to nor'easters or hurricanes. Anytime you have a strong east to northeast wind, Highway 12 seems to go underwater there. In this case, it's effectively closed off Hatteras Island, and it remains closed, Highway 12 does, so nobody gets off and nobody goes down there until we get Felix out of the way. And from what you guys, what I can hear you guys saying, Felix may be around for a while. Have a sunny summer vacation that you might expect. It's just not like that here. I mean, you saw that watching me throughout the day today and into tonight. At times it rains. There hasn't been a lot of rain, but it's very windy. You get sand blasted on the beach anywhere near the sand. And that ocean is spectacular, but there's no way you can go anywhere into it at all. And it's going to take quite a few days, I would imagine, for it to start to calm down. So I would say that right now it's not Chamber of Commerce weather, that's for sure.
Okay, Jeff, we're having a bit of a problem with the audio, probably compounded by the high winds there in eastern North Carolina. Jeff Moore reporting live from the Outer Banks of North Carolina. We'll check back in about another 25 minutes. We want to show you, though, some pictures up the coast. Of course, Jeff showed you some of the scenes from the Outer Banks, but up the coast in Virginia, some horrific waves and lots of beach erosion. This is the Sandbridge, Virginia area, and certainly this raises the fears of more beach erosion in the area as the water coming under some of those stilts holding up the buildings. The curious did wander out to the ocean side to see the effects of Felix, having a lot of powerful strength there out over the Atlantic. Up the coast of Norfolk, they were preparing for the possibility of Felix arriving over the next couple of days, boarding up the homes. Even some sunshine earlier today, but that has certainly been eroded as certainly the sun is set, but the clouds have rolled in, and we don't expect a whole lot of sunshine in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area tomorrow, as well as the Outer Banks. Let's talk now more with our senior forecaster, Stu Ostro, on this storm, which has stopped, but it's slowly wobbling a little bit to the west as we speak tonight.
It may be wobbling a little bit to the west, but we've been seeing that not only this evening, but even earlier in the day after it pretty much slowed down, and that is it wobbles a little bit to the north, it wobbles a little bit to the northeast, a little bit to the west, maybe even briefly a little bit to the south. The net effect in averaging all those wobbles out is that it's basically stationary.
And as long as it sits out there, we're going to have that onshore flow up and down the coast, not only in the Outer Banks, but also New Jersey, Maryland, and Delaware. So the beach erosion and the flooding, the Back Bay flooding, could be just devastating.
Right. We don't have any catastrophic winds to worry about. We don't have a storm surge that's going to be 20 feet to worry about or anything like that. But just the persistent nature of the winds and the tides continuing to come up with each tide. We've seen already starting to get under some of those structures. We've seen a lot of beach erosion. And if this storm does sit there for some time to come, that's going to continue to be a problem.
Yeah, we've been mentioning this evening that most of the hurricanes and
actually see some fluctuation back and forth. Also, if we look at the radar, we've seen some of these relatively minor squall bands come over where Jeff and the crew are. The heavier stuff is still offshore, and we also notice that right around the center, which we could see with better definition earlier, it has become much more ragged. Some of that is because it's relatively far away from the radar site, but some of that is probably due to the fact that it is not strengthened and actually has weakened a little bit. The Gulf Stream map that we have here shows that there is some very warm water right right nearby. Some of that may have decreased a little bit.
It really has not shown any signs of moving towards the coast. So along the coast, the hurricane warnings have been downgraded to hurricane watches, and we also have tropical storm warnings replacing those hurricane warnings and tropical storm watches up the coast there all the way to the Manasquan Inlet. And there you can see the hurricane force winds well offshore. They'll probably stay off there at least through 24 hours, if not longer. And there you can see tropical storm force winds right along the coast in North Carolina. Okay, what we have to talk about with these winds is that how do we get them here on our charts? And one of the ways that we do get them is from the hurricane hunters. And yesterday, one of the Weather Channel's crew was lucky enough to hop on board the hurricane hunter. And here you can see the scene from the C-130. These are the planes that fly right into the eyes of these tropical systems. And the crew was on board yesterday for about 12 hours, and they were flying in and out of Warner Robins Air Force Base. So quite a ride for those interested in these tropical systems. And with our storms swirling offshore, we've been talking about the clouds and the winds and the rains just nicking the coast. So let's give you a better view of the satellite picture right now. It's quite an impressive shot there, but notice the center of circulation not showing a well-defined eye. Clouds all filled up in that center of circulation there. And notice the thick clouds just kind of hugging the coast of Jersey, Delaware, Virginia, North Carolina. But on the radar, you don't see a lot of heavy precipitation. Any precipitation onshore is very, very light. Get all the goodies that you can't get here. And I know a lot of you like to dig into the computer and check out what's happening. So let's see what's going on with our satellite picture for you right now. And across the North Atlantic, faster than a speeding bullet now, is Felix. Remember how slow Felix was and how it was just hanging around there? Well, now Felix is like an express train moving out across the North Atlantic. I just checked on the weather observation from Cape Race, Newfoundland, right there. And the winds are still gusting up out of the north there, 20 to 35 miles an hour. Earlier we did have wind gusts to about 50 as the winds were coming in from the northeast and the east, but now the winds are starting to shift around as the storm steams out into the North Atlantic. As we show you the particulars, I know a lot of you like to plot these storms. I know I used to love to do it, and now we give you the goods. 45.6 north, 54.2 west, about 100 miles to the southwest of Cape Race, Newfoundland. That was at 5 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, so now it's almost about 9 a.m. So take the movement of 40 miles an hour, so what's that, 4 4s or 16, so it's now probably just off to the southeast of Cape Race, Newfoundland. That's what it looks like right now. So this was the advisory as of 5 a.m. We'll probably get one more advisory from the Hurricane Center at 11 a.m. and then they'll just say, see you later. It's getting away from the tropics. It's headed out to the North Atlantic. Hurricane Center, though, is focusing their attention down to the south. And I have some visible satellite pictures to show you up close what's going on here. These are the Cape Verde Islands. See them right here? Out here in the far eastern Atlantic. And this was a swirl we were watching yesterday that had all the heavy showers and thunderstorms, convection, if you will, on the south side of it. It seemed like there's a little bit of a shear blowing, a little bit of a wind there, or shear, if you will, blowing off the thunderstorms away from the center of circulation. But now, from yesterday to today's pictures, that's why you see the blip there, that's overnight, and now here's today's. You can see how near the center of circulation, all the showers and thunderstorms are back. Everything's developed back near that center overnight, so everything clustered near the center, and the Hurricane Center says, aha, what we have here is a tropical depression. And Tropical Depression 9 it is, 14.3 north, 35.5 west. That's about 750 miles off to the west of the Cape Verde Islands. Cape Verde Islands again right here. Top winds estimated about 35 miles an hour, and it's moving off to the west-northwest. We saw that movement with that satellite picture, and this movement should continue over the next 24 to 48 hours with more or less a west-northwesterly flow. So here you have it, Cape Verde Islands right here, and here it is, our depression right there and it continues to move off to the west-northwest. Now, out ahead of this, there's a couple more waves, and we'll be checking on those. But before I move away from here, just want to show you that the action is still coming off the coast of Africa. There's your latest wave moving off, and it looks like a pretty healthy one at that. So let's get you closer to home. And, oops, no, not that map. Back to the tropics. As we get you closer to home, we show you the Lesser Antilles right here. Tropical wave moving through, not doing very well here. So we look off to the east, and here we see the next wave approaching. But yesterday there were signs of a circulation. Today we're having a hard time finding that. So just a large area of disturbed weather with that next wave coming on through. Little upper low north of Puerto Rico. That's not a player. But off to the west here, here's all that disturbed weather continuing around Haiti and also around the Dominican Republic and over towards Cuba, and now moving up to the Bahamas. And look what's right downstream, Florida. And over the past couple of days, we've seen our fair share of showers and thunderstorms in the vicinity of a trough in through here. And now today, we're getting this wave or trough moving at you slowly from the southeast. So here we go with the old double whammy, the old trough, new trough or wave coming on in. So it spells a lot of wetness for Florida. So a lot of rain to talk about, especially in South Florida coming on through the next day or so. Be prepared. As we take you to the Pacific, Gil is with us, 16.3, 108.0. That's well off the coast of Mexico, well west of Acapulco, about 540 miles. Top wind's about 50 miles an hour. And there you can see all the storm systems lined up like planes just off the intertropical convergence zone and off the southeast coast. See them there? All out in the Atlantic. Well, what's it look like on our other chart right here? We'll show you what we're looking at. Gil, TD11, Felix up there. TD10 is now Iris, just into us here at the Weather Channel. This is now Iris, a tropical storm. Humberto out here in a strong wave. So let's go back to the picture, and you can see how everything's moving right along. And there's Gil again. There's our depression. There goes Felix. There is Iris. Here comes Humberto. And there's our strong wave coming off the African coast. First things first, closest to home is TD11, and there you can see the position as of 5 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 25.5 north, 79.8 west. The latest advisory just came in from the Hurricane Center, and they're agreeing with us that the center of circulation has moved to a position off of Palm Beach here, off of West Palm. That's where it appears the center of circulation is. Here's Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm right up about here. And here's where that center of circulation is. And with that hugging the coast here, we have seen the squalls coming into the immediate Atlantic coast, and now everything's backing westward all the way towards Lake Okeechobee. Here's the radar out of South Florida. Here's the Miami area, metropolitan area, and as we go up the coast, here's West Palm here, and here's where your center of circulation is, right about in through here. Notice that a large shield of very heavy rains offshore, but the Keys have been getting hit with some pretty heavy rains this morning, band of nasty looking rains as you travel your way south through the Central Keys there. I'm sure our old friend Billy Wagner getting pretty wet this morning. He's one of the emergency managers here. He's one of the big poobahs down here in the Keys. As we take you up to the north, though, we do see heavier rains up around West Palm this morning, but up the coast, as this whole system drifts north, there will be the potential for some very heavy rains. And if this stays close to the coast, chances for development very small. But if it moves off to the east a little bit more, there is a big ridge, so the potential for development would be there. As we show you what's going on with Tropical Depression 10, it has now been upgraded to Tropical Storm Iris, and as of 5 a.m., 14-0 north, 52-9 west, and the latest advisory just coming on in, so we'll get these updated to you very shortly. And right behind that, that's Humberto, and Humberto, the latest advisory, 15-0 north, 39.5 west, and winds 75 miles an hour. So still a minimal hurricane, but it is forecast to intensify over the next 24 to 48 hours. So here you can see the Lesser Antilles. Here's Barbados. There's St. Lucia and Martinique, and heading up towards Guadeloupe. And here is Iris, Tropical Storm, and it is forecast to move its way more towards the northwest with time because of an upper low north of Puerto Rico, but that is not a certain forecast. So if you are planning a trip down to the Virgin Islands and over towards the Leeward Islands, you want to keep up to date on this one here. Again, the forecast is for northwest drift. Here's Humberto, and Humberto is forecast to intensify as it too moves off towards the west-northwest. Here's another view of Humberto, and right behind that, look what's come off the African coast. Another tropical wave, and it looks like we almost have a depression on our hands already. So here comes yet another one. So we've already had 9 named systems in the Atlantic, Iris now being the 9th. And as we take you over to the Pacific, here is Gil and the early morning advisory on that one, 16-0 north, 111-0 west. Not a threat to any land areas as it continues to move its way off towards the west and towards the northwest. All right, let's get you back to the maps. Check your forecast out for today. High pressure over the east, looking good. Oh, a beautiful day today in the Big Apple. Nice day to head to the beaches. Seas are finally subsiding now as our system has moved well away. That's Felix, and there's our depression hugging the east coast of Florida. Great weather here. Maybe a late day shower or thunderstorm in far northern New York, but all
was 21, and that was back in 1933. And in 1933, we didn't get the 10th storm until the 26th of August, and now we got the 10th storm today, which is only the 23rd, so we're 3 days ahead of that pace. And this is quite an array of disturbances out in the Atlantic. One strong tropical wave just coming off the coast. Here we have a hurricane, that's Humberto, another hurricane, that's Iris. We have a tropical wave that's flared up a lot in the Caribbean Sea. And last but certainly not least, as far as the USA is concerned, we have Tropical Storm Jerry, which is now moving inland in Florida near Palm Beach. Here's the latest particulars, and looking at the satellite pictures and the radar and the information we have from aircraft now, we think the center is inland, and that's important to us because we know that once the center is over land, it won't increase any intensity while that's the case. However, we expect to see this storm move diagonally across the peninsula of Florida, emerge here in the Gulf of Mexico, somewhere around Appalachia Bay, and at that point it could well once more become a tropical storm. Here's our latest satellite picture, and right in there is where the circulation center is. And most of the heavy thunderstorms that are near it are down here to the south, and that's some indication of the fact that we're getting some north winds at upper levels and pushing the thunderstorms down to the south, but certainly some very heavy rain. We've seen as much as a couple inches almost in Palm Beach in an hour, and some of the Doppler estimates that we have show as much as 3 to 5 inches of rain in about a 3-hour period over portions of Palm Beach and Broward County. So very heavy rain indeed. And that is our biggest concern about this storm at this time, is heavy rain. Here you can see a band of heavy showers from Fort Myers hooking around into where the center is near Palm Beach. Another batch of showers coming inland between Daytona Beach and down toward Orlando. So some very, very large to our 2 hurricanes. This is Iris out here, and you can see that's kind of nudging a little bit to the northwest. The reconnaissance aircraft was out there today, and they found that it was indeed a hurricane. To the east of that, we have Humberto, which has been a hurricane for a while, and both of these are kind of moving off a little bit to the west-northwest, and that gives us a bit of encouragement because the farther north they get when they're out here over the oceans, the less likely to affect the United States. Too early to say whether they will. Any of these storms that are out in the Atlantic affect the U.S., but we'll have to stand by and watch that. Humberto, the 5 o'clock advisory shows it centered 1,000 miles west of the Cape Verde Islands, 1,050, 15.3, 40.5, pressure 987, wind 75 miles an hour, moving toward the west-northwest at 12 miles per hour. And this is Iris, and this is only 500 miles now, just about east of Guadalupe, moving toward the west-northwest at 7. The winds are even stronger than they are in Humberto on our first advisory, since this is a hurricane, up to 80 miles an hour. And we, of course, are going to be watching these with a great deal of interest in the next few days. And we did want to point out, this is Humberto here, and we have this strong tropical wave that's just come off the coast, and yet another one just emerging off the coast of Senegal in the western part of Africa. That's all we have that's really bothering the United States. We have Gil off the west coast of Mexico. That's moving toward the northwest at 10, but not expected to have any impact on land. Rich?
Okay, John, you say that's all we have. I tell you what, that is plenty, and I have a feeling John Hope's going to want to collect 2 paychecks this week. He's so busy out there. Okay, let's get back to the...
This is Mike Seidel in the Weather Channel Forecast Center along with hurricane specialist John Hope, and it's one of those years, John, where you don't get any rest, we don't get any rest. We've got Jerry in the Atlantic. We also have Hurricane now Iris and Humberto, but the main concern this evening, of course, is Jerry affecting Florida with heavy rains, and we want to emphasize the real threat is the rainfall.
It is the rainfall, and that's the only one of those storms now that's impacting the United States, and it's just barely made it up to a tropical storm, and now the center is in. We expect to see it weaken as it crosses the peninsula, but it's coming out in the Gulf tomorrow and could very well regenerate into a tropical storm.
Okay, let's go to the statistics right now and show you what's going on as far as our watches and warnings are concerned. And first we'll show you the watches continuing up along the East Coast. We've got a tropical storm warning from Flagler Beach to Deerfield Beach. Meanwhile, we have a tropical storm watch from Panama City to Anclo Key. Now those watches have just been issued, and that's because we think that over the next couple of days we're going to have some problems over on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Meanwhile, we want to be concerned certainly on the East Coast. Those warnings continuing from Flagler Beach to Deerfield Beach. The center has just come on shore around the West Palm Beach area. And we want to show you now the current conditions, the statistics from the National Hurricane Center as of 5 Eastern. There we go, 26.9 north, 80.3 west. And once again, John, it's now moving inland, so that's some promising news.
That is promising because we know it won't strengthen any while the center is inland, but we think by lunchtime tomorrow that it's going to emerge out over the open Gulf, and at that point, very likely be a storm again.
And basically the same track as Aaron, coming in a little further south, Aaron coming in around Vero Beach.
The tracks are very similar. This is further south on the East Coast, but the track is going to be over toward Appalachia Bay, very much parallel at least to that of Aaron.
Now once the center does reemerge, we think later tomorrow into that very warm water in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, re-intensifying is very likely.
We don't think that'll take very long. Now, inland tonight, we should say that we expect it to be reduced to a depression, but certainly it could strengthen and do so rapidly when it gets back out over the Gulf.
Here's our late afternoon visible shot. You can see the circulation now just on shore around the West Palm Beach area, just to the east of Lake Okeechobee. And again, John, the center is over landfall, so we don't think it will intensify, but the byproduct of weak tropical systems or weak tropical storms is tremendous amounts of rain. We checked West Palm Beach, and they've already picked up 4 to 5 inches of rainfall, and radar is lighting up like a Christmas tree.
And we expect to see upwards of 8 inches, more than that perhaps in some areas. And the very heaviest is from Fort Myers across the Everglades over to Fort Lauderdale and up to Palm Beach, and then another batch coming inland up around Daytona Beach over toward Orlando. So a lot of heavy rain tonight in Florida.
And the center right there just on shore now near West Palm Beach, and again a lot of rain across Dade, Broward counties into Monroe County, the Upper Keys, getting some rain. And as this moves in this direction, we could expect the rain, John, to pick up in intensity through the evening in the Tampa-St. Pete area.
And that, we emphasize again, is the big problem of this storm, rain. Lots
Rainfall.
of heavy rain.
No tornado watch yet. We'll let you know if one is issued by the National Severe Storms Forecast Center. And if Jerry isn't enough this year, we've got more to worry about. Humberto and Iris, both hurricanes. And with the details on those systems, here's Dennis Smith.
Thank you so much, Mike and John, as we appreciate the information on Jerry. And again, very active across the Atlantic, anywhere from where Jerry is in Florida to look at this latest wave that has come off into Africa. But let's focus our attention on a couple of storms right in this general vicinity. And here we can see that tropical wave. Yeah, tropical wave. That almost looks like a tropical depression already on the satellite perspective. Here is Hurricane Humberto as it continues wobbling off towards the northwest. It's well on out in the Atlantic, so it will take many, many days before we see anything to really get our concern up. So write it down at 15.3 north, 40.5 west, and you've pretty well got the very latest information on the center of Hurricane Humberto. Minimal hurricane, 75-mile-an-hour winds, moving west-northwest at 12, central pressure 987 millibars. Now joining Humberto in the Atlantic is Iris, just upgraded to a hurricane within the last hour. We have 2 hurricanes. Are they too close together? They're getting that way, and they have an effect to kind of sling the other one around, and the forecast is both to move northwest, but Humberto to move a little bit quicker as we move down the next couple of days. Very latest information on Iris, also a hurricane, in fact a little bit stronger, 15.2 north, 53.7 to the west, latitude and longitude that centers the low pressure, 80-mile-an-hour winds moving west-northwest at about 7 miles an hour. From that perspective, there it is, highlighted right there, close to Humberto, and another tropical wave that's sitting in the area around Puerto Rico, dumping quite a bit of rainfall as well. Jerry making its impact. It may even be downgraded to a tropical depression, as the two gentlemen were talking about earlier, but still the impact will be a lot of rain as it passes on through to the northwest. To you. In fact, Jerry continues to move on off towards the northwest at 9. By the way, it is a tropical storm, 40-mile-an-hour winds, so don't start getting anything like hurricane into your mind. This is a tropical of rain thus far, and before the storm is all over with, could be seeing as much as 7 to 8 inches of rainfall before all said and done. Satellite perspective bringing up areas of Florida as well. So, Jerry.
Latest on our Hurricane Humberto, and the 5 o'clock coordinates place the center of the hurricane over 1,000 miles west of Cape Verde Islands. Winds sustained at 75 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 12, and the pressure at 986. With maximum sustained winds at 80 miles an hour, and it is about 500 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. Here, it's moving west-northwest very slowly, and it's expected to keep this very slow movement in the next 24 hours. Have a conversation perhaps with one of the meteorologists here at the Weather Channel. You can do it by going online with CompuServe. All you have to do is type GO TWC Forum, and I know I've seen one of our meteorologists running around tonight who takes care of this. So if you're interested in having perhaps a more in-depth conversation, check it on out. Pretty interesting stuff there. And plenty of stuff in the tropics to talk about today. Boy, are the tropics active. In fact, if we look back in history, as of today, August 23rd, we've had 10 named storms, tropical storms or hurricanes. And in history, this has not happened before. The most active year was 1933 with 21 named storms. And I think it was by August 26th that the 10th storm had formed. So we're certainly starting a pace that could be record-setting. We'll have to wait and see how the rest of the hurricane season does, which lasts through November. Enough about that. Here we go with Tropical Storm Gil in the Pacific, Tropical Storm Jerry over Florida, Hurricane Iris, Hurricane Humberto, a wave coming off the west coast of Africa, and there's what's left of Felix. A lot's out there. Check it out on a satellite picture a little bit closer up, and you can see there's that wave that we were mentioning right there. There's Humberto. There's Iris. Here we've got another wave, and here is our tropical storm Jerry with some convection all the way down into parts of the central Caribbean. Felix does not show up on this picture, but that's okay. We had enough of Felix probably. Jerry, the latest information here as of 8 o'clock tonight now, places the center of our tropical storm 20 miles to the west-southwest of Vero Beach, with winds still sustained at 40 miles an hour. It's moving a little slowly here toward the northwest at about 8 miles per hour. Pressure's fairly high at about 1,004 millibars. And as we check out where
Atlantic tropics, in no year have we ever had this many storms this early. Good evening, I'm Jeff Morrow.
And I'm Mike Seidel. So far now 10 storms. Now back in 1933 we had 21 storms, but even in 1933 we hadn't reached 10 this early in August. So let's get into the first one, the one that's having the big impact on the East Coast. It's Jerry on the east coast of Florida with some gusty winds today, but the big problem from Jerry has not been gusty winds or rough surf. It's been tremendous rainfalls. In Palm Beach County, over 5 inches of rain, and the drainage system, as you can see here, just can't handle the drenching downpours like that. Meanwhile, around Coral Springs, we've had up to 8 inches of rainfall, and there's the latest on Jerry. The latest from the National Hurricane Center as of 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're still waiting for the 11 o'clock advisory. We've had them in from the Hurricane Center on Humberto and Iris, and Jeff will pass those along to you in a moment, but we're still waiting from Miami to hear about what they're going to do with Jerry, whether they're going to downgrade it to a tropical depression. So we'll go with this. It's a tropical storm, winds of 40 miles an hour. It's onshore now to the west-southwest of Vero Beach. That's just north of Lake Okeechobee, moving northwest at 8 miles an hour, and the pressure estimated at 1,004 millibars. Now remember, once a tropical system makes landfall, it usually weakens because it's cut off from its energy source. Also the land, the trees, and the buildings in your houses act as frictional components, and they tend to wear. It is still Tropical Storm Jerry, and it will remain that way for at least the time being. So there you have it. just hot off the press. Here's our satellite loop, and a lot of reds and oranges indicating the higher cloud tops, the colder cloud tops. And again, it's not the wind, it's not the storm surge or the beach erosion with Jerry, it's the tremendous tropical rays until 4 in the morning. Nice circulation here in the upper levels of the atmosphere and also at the surface. And you can see the moisture being drawn north from the Florida Keys over towards the West Palm Beach area. And right there, right just to the east of Lake Okeechobee, some serious rains coming down. And this is all going to be moving over to the west coast. So until 4 in the morning, watch out for the possibility of some isolated tornadoes. Again, though, lots and lots of rain. Now for the rest of the tropics, we're talking the rest of the tropics and Humberto and Iris. Let's check in with Jeff Morrow.
All right, Mike, and indeed we have a tremendously active tropics out there, as we mentioned at the top of the show. Mike just gave you all the particulars on Jerry. Still a tropical storm. That's the one that's affecting the U.S. right now. Whether our twin hurricanes out here, Iris and Humberto, ever get anywhere near the U.S. or even really near the Windward Islands remains to be seen. They're moving fairly slowly right now and generally moving in tandem off to the west-northwest. We'll take them one at a time. First, Iris. This is the brand new information. 15.5 north, 53.8 west, about 500 miles east of the Lesser Antilles, winds up to 80 miles per hour, and west-northwest at 7, and they estimate the pressure at 992 millibars. A more northwest track is expected to ensue over the next day to day and a half, and we think that track will probably take it northeast of the windwards, but that is not a certainty right now. Please stay tuned. Humberto, 15.3 north, 41.5 west. This also the brand new information about a little over 1,000 miles west of the Cape Verde Islands. Winds have increased here slightly to 80 miles per hour. So both Iris and Humberto with winds to about the same speed. West-northwest to 12 is what we're talking about. And also a more northwest track is expected here as well. But it's a little bit of a tricky situation with these two hurricanes because they're fairly close together. And if they both track to the northwest, one may be moving a little bit faster than the other. They're going to interact with each other, what's called the Fujiwara effect, named after the man who first noticed it with some cyclones in the Pacific Ocean. They may actually pinwheel around each other or start to, so they're going to affect each other. They're too big of systems not to. Well-defined hurricanes here, whether they ever affect land or not, or helplessly or just kind of meander out there into the middle of the Atlantic. That's what we hope is going to happen, but we'll have to keep you advised. Right now, they're churning up the middle of the Atlantic.
Hey, why don't you check out your CompuServe and go right into the TWC forum there and get some more goodies on all these storms that are parading around in the Atlantic and the Pacific. Gil, Jerry, Iris, Humberto, and a strong wave. Lots of activity for you right here. Now let's put the clouds into motion for you. And as we roll it, there you can see the storms. They're all lined up from the Florida Peninsula across the Atlantic to the coast of Africa, where we have yet another strong disturbance coming off the coast. So we're looking at a tropical storm Jerry. We also have Hurricane Iris, Hurricane Humberto, and the strong tropical wave. We start you off with a look at what's going on with Jerry. 28.1 north, 81.8 west. That's the 5 a.m. advisory. A new advisory will be coming out in any minute right now. I can hear the computer. It's warming up over there, so probably coming in hot off the presses. Jim Cantori will probably have that information for you in WeatherScope right at the top of the hour. Top winds about 40 miles an hour, moving northwesterly at 9. Estimated pressure about 1,003 millibars. System developed here over the Gulf Stream. Now it's been moving its way off to the northwest. Hurricane Centimeter. Real nice forecast on this one. Hats off. You know, there's a lot of pressure on those guys, and they came through like champs. Okay, there you go. Panama City, just north of Tampa, down about Tarpon Springs there. We do have tropical storm warnings now, and from Flagler Beach to Deerfield Beach, tropical storm warnings. Highest winds have been on the east side of our tropical storm center, and winds have been gusting up to 44 miles an hour during the past hour alone. Right here at Cape Canaveral with this big cluster of heavy rain and thunderstorms. Center of circulation pretty much right in here. There you can see it there. Take a close look at it. There you can see it, but with the circulation coming around our tropical storm. South Florida looking at slow-moving heavy rains, especially over here on Fort Myers and Sanibel Island, Naples, looking pretty wet. And up the East Coast here, we've seen very heavy rains yesterday and overnight. Reports of 6 to 8 inches of rain. Doppler radar estimates anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of rain in the past 24 hours from Palm Beach up to Brevard counties. Here you can see the center of circulation here continues to move its way off to the northwest, and with this circulation moving off to the northwest, the anticipation is that it will get out over the open waters of the Gulf, and as our system weakens to a depression, it'll probably rejuvenate into a minimal tropical storm. Still a lot of rain coming up from the south, so it looks like a nasty day again on the east coast of Florida. Looks like a horrible rush hour in Orlando. We've been warning you about that. Now the soaking rains are coming on in, so I'm sure there'll be mucho traffic problems. Speaking of traffic problems, there's a big traffic jam out here in the Atlantic as we look at our two storms here. Here's Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Tropical wave interacting with an upper trough. That's why we see some flare up here. Don't look for any development, but more downpours anticipated in the mountains around Puerto Rico. But over here to the east, look what's going on. Is the storm moving? It's not moving at all. It's just kind of sitting here. That's Iris. Here comes Humberto. Is this one moving northwest? No, it's not. Just kind of hanging around here. It's been moving west. So with these two storms very close together, they're probably going to start affecting each other's motion. So the motion on these is very uncertain. And these may even do what we call a Fujiwara effect, which is that one storm gets close and that makes the other one move around it. Official tracks, though, has both these storms moving up, but Hurricane Center is saying, well, you know, that long-range forecast guidance that we have is having problems. So they say, watch this very closely if you live in the islands here, Hurricane Iris, because it's just sitting here. And the question is will the trough off to the northwest pick it up, or will this try to Fujiwara around the other storm? So very uncertain the movement of Iris in the future. Right now it's just about stationary, winds about 80 miles an hour. Hurricane hunters are on their way and they're doing an investigation. Here comes Humberto, and with Humberto getting closer to Iris, again anticipating a northwesterly movement, but it hasn't done so. Still moving off to the west, and still a pretty potent storm there. Winds about 85 miles an hour. And behind Humberto, look at this. Tropical wave, very strong with an area of low pressure on it. This could be on its way to becoming our next depression, but you know, it has that log jam downstream from it, so who knows what's going to happen there. Hey, there's Gil. Gil's still with us. Very heavy downpours to contend with here. Center of circulation with Tropical Storm Jerry just up to the northwest of Lakeland, and that's headed northwest. Jim Cantori has an update on Jerry and WeatherScope in just a moment.
Good morning. It's August 24th, 1995. 3 years to the date that we saw one of the most memorable hurricanes of all time make its way onshore in Homestead, Florida. And we're talking about, of course, Hurricane Andrew. This is the 3rd year anniversary for that. Obviously, a lot of folks will remember that for a long time. Tropical Storm Jerry is what we're dealing with this morning, though. We'll give you the latest on that. 28.4 north, 82.0 west. This is the 8 a.m., so this is an intermediate advisory from the Hurricane Center. 25 miles north-northwest of Lakeland. Winds at 40. It's still moving to the northwest at 9. Estimated pressures at 1,003. And they have seen some gusty winds continuing around Cape Canaveral, still gusting to 40, 50 miles an hour there. Notice tropical storm warnings are posted from Panama City down to Tarpon Springs and from Flagler Beach to Deerfield Beach. So even though the storms move inland and it's west of Orlando, we are still getting tropical storm type winds along the east coast. Now later on today, when those die down, those warnings may be discontinued, but what we may see also this afternoon, once the storm reemerges in the northeastern Gulf, which we expect it to do, are tropical storm watches, which may be posted west of Panama City through the Panhandle. So that is something that we are going to have to keep an eye on. Well, rain has been the big story with this. It's been a major rainmaker. We've seen anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of rain so far in parts of east central Florida. What was it like yesterday in Miami as Jerry made its way onshore and was developing at the same time? Well, we'll take you there. Miami already received nearly 3 inches of rain. Not as bad. Okay, this is West Palm. I thought we were going to show Miami here, but West Palm, I can tell you right now, 6 inches of rain from Jerry so far. We continue to see some showers in Palm Beach County. Would you believe so far this month, Palm Beach has seen 15 inches of rain, which is over 3 times their normal rainfall. So we continue to see quite a soaker here with Tropical Storm Jerry, and we'll have to keep an eye on it too, because once it emerges over the northeastern Gulf, it could intensify once again. Let's get into some analysis.
Florida. Thanks for tuning into the Weather Channel Forecast Center. I'm Mike Seidel. It was Tropical Storm Jerry yesterday and last night, downgraded to a depression earlier today, but still a lot of problems, not from wind, not from storm surge, but from downpours, drenching downpours. Let's show you what it looks like from the satellite perspective or infrared. Even a cloud there, so we don't have a very organized system, and at this point it has been hugging the coast but not moving offshore, and until it moves offshore, if it does, we're not going to see any re-intensification back to a tropical storm, and that would certainly be good news. Even if it doesn't do that, we have a lot of rain out there. We've got to kind of wring it out of the atmosphere. Let's show you what all that rain did to Florida. We'll start off in West Palm Beach. 8 inches of rain flooding streets and neighborhoods last night and this morning. Look at that. It looks like a lake there. And look at this guy here in Naples. Opens his car door. I'm surprised we don't see a salmon jumping out of the street into his car. And it just took certainly the efforts of Good Samaritans to continue. Some residents on their way. This guy pushing the car backwards through about 3 feet of water. In Orlando, similar scenes where roadways flooded following rainfall of 2.5 to 3 inches. And we've got waves there breaking out on the median strip, and there's some waves crashing on shore. Again, no real problems with beach erosion, but some tropical breezes, and as we'll show you in a moment on the radar, we have a lot of problems tonight around Jacksonville because more rain is moving in off the coast. Let's go to that radar right now and get you updated. If you're watching from Florida, you know it's been one of those days where it's been one of those days you have to stay in the mall. You just can't get to the beach. The only area which has really missed out on the brunt of the rainfall has been from Tampa and up toward, not a problem, 35 miles an hour, stationary as of 8 from the National Hurricane Center. We'll get another advisory on Jerry coming up just before 11 o'clock Eastern Time. 28.9 north, 82.7 west, and if you've been plotting, you know that longitude is actually east of the previous value.
Oh, look at the tropics now. Although we don't have any Andrews out there, we certainly have a lot of action. All the way from the Gulf Coast to the African coast, we have action out there. Let's take a closer look at some of the more impressive systems. Humberto is certainly the most powerful out there right now. Winds up to 105 miles per hour. That makes it a Category 2 hurricane right now, and it's way out here in the middle of the Atlantic, not even close to the Lesser Antilles. Something a little closer to the Lesser Antilles is this system, which is kind of undergoing some changes there. That's Iris, Hurricane Iris. Well, this is Humberto, looking much more impressive than Iris. Both have to be watched, and both are moving to the west-northwest, and we'll have to keep a close eye as these move closer to the islands and then eventually, possibly, toward the United States. But here's the latest on Iris. We'll keep you updated all night long about the tropics, but now Sharon's going to take a look back at the lower 48.
For tuning into the Weather Channel. I'm Mike Seidel in the Forecast Center here in Atlanta, and although it's now just a tropical depression, it really doesn't matter because the wind and the storm surge has never really been a problem. It's been the tremendous amount of tropical moisture being unleashed by Jerry. It was downgraded from a tropical storm to a depression earlier today, and now we can show you the vantage point from the satellite way out in space, and you can see it's not a very organized system. Florida, 14.8 inches of rain. That's more rain than Phoenix gets in an average year in only about 18 hours. Let's go to the radar and show you what's going on right now. And if you're tomorrow, I guess that's the big question. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens with the tropical system. Here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center, 11 o'clock Eastern, 29.0 north, 82.9 west, winds of 35 miles an hour. It's moving west-northwest at 5, but there is still some uncertainty in the track. If it does move out over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, it could strengthen, re-intensify to a tropical storm. If it doesn't, it looks like we're going to be dealing with Jerry, but not tropical storm.
Humberto, winds are up to 105 miles per hour as of 11 o'clock. That's pretty much stayed the same all day long. Moving to the west-northwest at 9, so it's way out here in the middle of the Atlantic, but it certainly could impact some island or maybe the United States down the road. And we look at this. This is also a hurricane, although it's lost quite a bit of its strength here. We're looking at Iris, which is still just a
Heavy rains are a real problem tonight, especially in southwest Florida, also along the northeast coast around Jacksonville and St. Augustine.
Of course, and this is Humberto. Iris is a little closer to the islands, and we do have a tropical storm watch out for some of the islands here in the Lesser Antilles, and we'll get that to you during the tropical update, so tune in for that. Here's the latest on Iris, downgraded to 65 miles per hour, tropical.
Again, Naples over 15 inches of rain, West Palm over 8, Miami 3 inches plus, and it continues to come down. The latest radar picture is coming up in a minute, but right now, the storm, and we'll have to update this because the new information just came in, but it's very close to Cross City in Florida. The center has moved inland. Winds are still at 35, and it continues to track north. Pressure is now up to 1,003 millibars. So Jerry is now over land. Now, there's still a very small chance that it could move out into the Gulf and possibly refire. It doesn't look likely at this point, but with these storms, you never know. The heaviest rain is still falling on the east side of the storm, which is very Iris is just east of there. Humberto now is being pulled a little more to the north. There's an area of low pressure north of here, and that continues to pull the storm off to the north. But Iris is certainly something we need to watch. Tropical storm watches have been posted for parts of the islands because of this one, and it continues a westward track. And then right on the edge of the screen, we're starting to see a very strong tropical wave come into play, and if that is upgraded, it would be named Karen. But at this point, again, it's just a very strong tropical wave. So we have our hands
burning the tropics, and of course the tropics are very active. We have a strong tropical wave. We have Humberto, Iris, TD Jerry, and Tropical Storm Gil out in the eastern portions of the Pacific. Here's the latest on Tropical Depression Jerry. We know a lot of you follow this or are following the storm with us. This is the latest position report as of 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. And the center is located at 29.8 north, 83.2 west. That is about 20 miles north-northwest across City, Florida. Maximum winds are 35 miles per hour. The system continues to drift northward over land right now. That is an important development. And the estimated central pressure is 1,003 millibars. Now, tropical storm warnings remain in effect Pensacola down to Anclote Key, but according to the latest advisory, those tropical storm warnings could be downgraded later on today. Let's go back to the satellite. Again, the important new update is that the center is over land. Across City is right about in here. The center of circulation is over land, and those of you who follow tropical is more on the way. So we have Tropical Depression Jerry right here. There's a wave in the Caribbean. This is Iris, Humberto, and a tropical wave coming off the west coast of the African continent. Rather well-developed tropical wave at that. Now, Humberto may have reached its peak intensity and is feeling the effects of an upper low to its north. Notice how it is elongating in a southwest northeasterly direction. It may be beginning to take the turn onto the north as we have been expecting, and perhaps weakening somewhat. Now, the circulation around Humberto has probably had some effect on Iris, that is pushing it a little bit to the south of a due west track. Now, that may be important because the upper low may track to the north of Iris and not have any effect on it. If that is the case and a high pressure ridge continues to build, then Iris could begin to take a more westerly track across the islands. Because of that scenario, because of the position you see here, tropical storm watches have been issued for and somewhat. Humberto now 16.8 north, 45 west. Maximum winds 105 miles an hour. Humberto moving north-north.
Have been made, and some of the watches and warnings. First, we'll give you the coordinates as of 11 o'clock Eastern Time. 14.0 north and 60.7 west if you're watching from the Caribbean on the satellite dishes. 20 miles east of St. Lucia, winds of 50 miles an hour. It's moving west at 9, so it's slowed down its forward progress from 10 miles an hour to 9 miles an hour. Air Force reconnaissance aircraft, the Hurricane Hunters, are checking it out, and the pressure they found was 1,000 millibars. That has not changed. What has changed, and we'll be out to sea, probably will not impact the U.S. East Coast or the Caribbean. The winds are north-northwest at 14, or that's the direction it's moving, rather. The winds are still 105 miles an hour, and out in the Atlantic, only affecting the shipping interest, and expected to continue that motion, but maintain its strength over the next 12 to 20.
Well, the remnants of Jerry continue to cause flooding in the southeast, while other tropical activity bears some watching through the weekend. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Resulton.
And I'm Terry Smith. And while the south deals with too much rain, a lack of moisture is causing problems for the northeast. Smoke fills the skies over eastern Long Island as a fire continues to rage in Suffolk County. More than 2,500 firefighters are struggling to contain the fire, but as they're fighting against dry brush and windy conditions in the area. The fire is being called the worst in New York in 50 years, having consumed 5,000 acres of land. and forcing hundreds of people from their homes. Well, from a satellite vantage point, you can pick this out, believe it or not. Satellites are a very interesting instrument and very helpful in this instance, I guess. It's a satellite image as of 9:30 this morning Eastern Time, courtesy of NOAA. That's where we get all our satellite images from. Here's Long Island. There's the fire. Notice a little plume of smoke off to the south. We have strong northerly winds in the region, and so we were able to follow that little trail of smoke, and there's the fire. Well, not a surprise that we're dealing with dry conditions because the
Florida are having the opposite type of trouble, more rain than they can handle, courtesy of the remnants of Tropical Depression Jerry. Lake levels in Polk County, Florida were already high, so the extra rain from Jerry certainly didn't help. Many of the lakes in the area are landlocked, meaning when they overflow, that results in some soaked homes for residents. The rains are expected to continue for the area on through Saturday. One of the areas hardest hit by Jerry in Florida has been Naples on the Gulf Coast. More than 16 inches of rain has fallen in Naples since Wednesday, causing widespread flooding problems. Many roads remain impassable. Others are covered with several inches of standing water. Standing water also remains in area homes, leaving residents faced with the difficult chore of cleaning up. And that chore may be a little easier for you come this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Well, at least the bulk of the moisture is heading out of your direction. I want you to focus your attention on the right-hand side of your screen. What we've done here is give you a Doppler radar estimate. Here's the scale in inches. It's color-coded, so you can pick out where you see some of the lighter colors like the yellows and oranges and reds, and you can kind of get at least a guess or an estimate on how much some of these areas have received. And note around Fort Lauderdale and around West Palm Beach, some of these spots picking up close to 10 inches. Same is true from Fort Myers back on southward around the Naples area. Tremendous amount of moisture across this particular region. As we check on the tropics now, we'll look at the remnants of Jerry. We'll find the enhanced clouds showing most of the rainfall moving into South Carolina, eastern Georgia, and even on into northern sections. Some lighter rain coming down now around the Atlanta metro area. It's been rather persistent, really. It hasn't amounted to a whole lot. The heaviest stuff really remaining here. Extreme southern South Carolina on through Georgia around the Savannah area or just north of Savannah, and then on westward. Looks like even Macon may see some more significant rain, but Valdosta not seeing that much at all. It's really been across the eastern portion of the state. Here's your rainy travel map showing you flood watches, areas in the darker green there. That
coast to the African coasts, and we've got some flare-ups out there, no doubt about it. This one stands out. That is, of course, the strongest system on the map here, and that is Humberto, a hurricane, which is going to be probably not affecting any land masses, we don't believe, as it generally is moving out into open seas here. That's some good news. But some other areas are affecting some land masses. Down here, we got a tropical storm, Iris. We'll zoom in on a closer look and first start off in southeast with the remnants of Jerry. Yes, Jerry is a kind of a funny name for a tropical system, but once again, we don't pick the names here at the Weather Channel. Jerry was a tropical storm at one time, came in to South Florida, a lot of heavy rainfall here, and then has moved on up into Georgia now, just the remnants. And there is still a circulation here, but I'll tell you what, it is not a wind maker, generally speaking. There may be some winds 15 to 25 miles per hour around this system, but that's about it, just a steady breeze. We do see some pretty heavy showers in southeastern Georgia. Right in here, we've had a tremendous amount of rainfall right along I-16 between Macon and Savannah. That's where the heavy rainfall, and maybe just north of I-16. A lot of rain's been coming down. South Florida still seeing a few showers, and around West Palm, but the worst is over. You may see some isolated and scattered thunderstorms through Saturday. Well, here's what else is going on. We got Iris out here, almost like breathing, going in and out. Looks like a blob, some type of bee movie going on here. We certainly have some problems, though, as winds are picking up out here through the Lesser Antilles, and we are going to see some heavy rainfall. That's the almost the given there. The winds are not terribly strong, down to 50 miles per hour. This hurricane, though, is still packing winds up over 100 miles per hour. Let's check it out. Iris, as of 11 o'clock, 14 degrees north, 60.7 west. That's 20 miles east of St. Lucia. Winds 50 miles per hour west at 9 is the movement, and the pressure only 1,000 millibars, so it's not a real deep system. But it is going to affect the Lesser Antilles here. The watches in hurricane here, winds at 105 miles per hour, so it's maintaining its strength, but it may not do that much longer. maybe another 24 hours or so as it moves off to the northwest. It looks like it's going to be out of the picture. And then a couple of tropical waves here. This one looked quite impressive last night and even today, but has lost a lot of its convection out there, so things are starting to quiet down here. And yet more tropical waves keep emerging off the coast of Africa, so it seems like there's no end. The only thing going on here in the Pacific.
There's so much activity, a good opportunity to do some direct interacting with one of the meteorologists here. All right, satellite picture time. We've got plenty of activity going on right now. We've got Jerry. We've got a little wave here in the Caribbean. We've got our tropical storm Iris. We've got our Hurricane Humberto. We've got a tropical depression here. That may become Karen, and another wave here off the west coast of Africa. Let's get down to business, though, first with Iris, which is a tropical storm that is working its way through the Lesser Antilles right now. It's just southeast of Dominica as of 5 o'clock Eastern time, with winds sustained at 45 miles an hour. So it is a fairly weak tropical storm. It's moving very slowly northwest at about 6 miles per hour. And it looks like in the next 24 hours it's going to maintain this northwesterly movement and also maintain its current's intensity. So it doesn't look like it's going to strengthen or weaken much beyond what it is right now. And that's good news. Grenadines here. I think St. Vincent's also included in this, are under flood watches, all due to Iris. And as we check out a satellite picture here of Iris and Humberto and the wave, just notice Iris here. Here's the Lesser Antilles. A lot of the convection right now is just right around the Antilles and just to the east. And it is moving very slowly northwest, so we're going to have to be dealing with a lot of rain in this region. And if it moves in a northwesterly fashion, Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands are going to begin to feel the effects of this probably within the next 24 hours, if not less. So right now, most of the convection here in the Lesser Antilles, but the Virgin Islands soon will be feeling the effects if they haven't already. Humberto is weakening. It's running into some shear, some winds that are ripping it apart. And this system is also fairly well organized considering, but it too is running into some shear, and I'll show you that in a second. Here's the latest stats on Humberto again as of 5 o'clock with winds sustained at 90 miles an hour. Good news is it's moving north at 9, and that movement is expected, so it is no longer going to be of concern to any land areas. So for you folks who have travel plans in the Caribbean, this should not be a concern. Certainly. Now here's tropical depression number 12. This is going to bear watching though. Right now the winds are 35 miles an hour.
Heavy rain continues to fall in parts of the south as the remnants of Jerry move towards the north. Good evening, I'm Rich Johnson.
And I'm Kristina Abernathy. The tropics remain active today with most attention centered on Iris as it threatens the eastern islands of the Caribbean.
As we look at the tropics, this is the way it looks out there. Iris as of 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight. Much nicer. Okay, let's now look again at the, that was actually a sneak preview there as we look at Iris as a 5.
Tropical storm from earlier in the week continue to cause problems. That was enough to bring out the rain slickers and umbrellas. Across the country, we've got some action as we head into the southwest, across Texas, and also especially as we head into the southeast. This is where the remnants of Jerry, it's causing plenty of flooding problems as we head into eastern Georgia and now on into South Carolina too. Now as we check what's going on a little closer, this is what it looks like. We've got rain from Atlanta all the way over to Columbia, and north through Charlotte, Asheville, all the way over to Durham, Raleigh-Durham. And if we can check out what's going on in Raleigh-Durham, the streak was broken as we check that activity. This is what's going on as far as the streak is being broken. 1/4 inch of rain fell at Raleigh-Durham last night. 25 days without rain is the 4th longest stretch ever, so some much needed rainfall as we head into Raleigh-Durham. Let's head back to the radar, and this is what it looks like again across the southeast. Plenty of flash flood warnings and flood warnings issued in parts of Georgia on into South Carolina, and then as we head into North Carolina, we're seeing some rain moving into this area too. A closer view as we head into Atlanta, you can see we've got rain around the metro area. Nothing going on in Atlanta itself right now, but head on up towards North Georgia, over towards Athens. We're looking at some rain and some thunderstorms over near Elberton. Some of the heaviest activity now crossing on over into South Carolina, on up towards Anderson and on into the upstate of South Carolina. Look for some heavy rainfall. Already heavy amounts have fallen, so any more that falls is just going to cause further problems.
On Wednesday, Tropical Storm Jerry moved into Florida, bringing the threat of heavy rain to that state. That threat was soon realized. Before long, more than 3 1/2 inches of rain had fallen in West Palm Beach, near the point where the storm made landfall. Thursday saw more flooding across Florida. On the west coast, Naples saw more than 4 inches of rainfall between Wednesday and Thursday, causing widespread flooding across that area. The scene was similar in Orlando, where more than 2.5 inches of rain caused street flooding around the town. In contrast to the flood scenes in Florida, the Sunshine State, as the remnants of Jerry dump more rain, with Naples receiving more than 16 inches since Wednesday. With Weather Rewind, I'm Gene Rubin.
Before we get to the forecast, we want to bring you the latest information on Iris. This just in, 14.9 north, 61.3 west. As far as the watches and warnings, there has been no change. We'll continue to give you a full update a little bit later on. But now let's see that rain moving on up maybe towards Virginia. D.C. still a little iffy right now whether or not the rain will make it your way, but it looks like up into the northeast, the effects of Jerry will probably not be felt. A front moving through could drop a little bit of rain, but nothing like what you need.
Carolina, but we still have the steady, moderate rain building over North Carolina. And I'll tell you what, if we get any reports out of North Carolina, like we got out of South Carolina, you can anticipate some serious flooding because we've had some big problems in upstate South Carolina near Greenville and Spartanburg. Over 1 foot of rain has fallen with all this deep tropical moisture, the remnants of Jerry moving through the area. So this is, of course, a Michelin travel trouble spot. If you have travel plans, any of the interstates here, please be careful. We have had reports of some of the roads closed near the Greenville and Spartanburg areas, so be on the lookout here. A flood watch for North Carolina as well. Deficits over the northeast. Maybe some severe storms right in here later this afternoon. So far, we do not have any severe thunderstorm watches or warnings, but we'll keep you posted if any come about.
It's as far as Michelin science has ever.
Parts of southern New England. How long will they last and where are they located? Well, we'll check out radar shortly. The heat is on today over Texas and Louisiana. And once again today, the tropics are packed with impressive features, not the least of which Hurricane Humberto and Tropical Storm Iris. Another tropical feature, of course, has been the remnants of Jerry, and Jerry has dropped some extremely heavy rainfall over parts of upstate South Carolina in the last 12 to 24 hours. Almost 1 foot of rain fell in the 12 hours ending at 2 o'clock this morning in Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina. That smashes the old record at 8.2 inches set back on May 7th and 8th. 1910. And if you've been checking in with us this morning, you know that there are considerable flooding problems in the upstate sections of North Carolina, South Carolina, and parts of North Carolina too. Sumter, South Carolina, 4.91. Athens, Georgia, almost 5 inches of rainfall recently. Marietta, Georgia, northwest suburban area of Atlanta, 3.25. But parts of Cherokee County, northwest of Atlanta, have reported in with almost 9 inches of rainfall from the remnants of Jerry. Well, the center of Jerry is right here, right along the South Carolina-Georgia border, and as has been the case recently with Jerry, most of the action in terms of showers and thunderstorms are east and north of the center. The largest area of precipitation now is the western half of North Carolina. This is light to moderate rain falling near Greensboro, TD number 12, moving westward in the tropical South Atlantic. The first stop is the stats on Humberto. It is located at 24.7 north. This is the update, by the way. 48.3 west. Maximum winds of increased tropical storm, 45-mile-an-hour winds. Earlier, Iris was stationary, now beginning to move off to the northwest at 7. Central pressure has not changed since 8 o'clock this morning. The coordinates have a little bit. Now it's 16 of Iris. That could very well change later on today. A tropical storm watch or warning could be issued. Look at the deep convection with Iris. One of the coldest cloud tops is sitting right over the island of Martinique here. Last report was about 2 o'clock Eastern time this morning, 7 inches of rainfall. It's likely that several more inches of rain have fallen since then. That is a big story with this, the heavy rain and the gusty winds. It's possible Iris could strengthen a little more during the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll keep you posted. You can see Humberto at the top right.
A very busy tropical season. Well, actually, the last couple of weeks have been extremely busy. Right now, we're watching about 5 different systems moving out across the open waters of the Atlantic. One most recent wave has come off the African coast, and this seems to be quite impressive. This one is quite impressive, too. It has been named a tropical depression.
Form, and you're online with the Weather Channel. Let's get online with what's going on in the tropical Atlantic and Caribbean. It has been one of those situations this summer where we just have non-stop action virtually, as Tom Moore called it. Tropical mania has struck, and we've got what's left of Jerry off in the corner of your screen. This is Iris, Humberto, and very strong tropical depression here in the upstate of South Carolina at the Greenville-Spartanburg Airport now. Over 15 inches of rain. They had their wettest 24-hour period since on record, and that record goes back to 1910. And now we're getting some sunshine, late afternoon heating in here, and that's firing up some big storms all the way into the Raleigh-Durham area. Notice the spinning action is really not moving, so we're going to have more moisture thrown back in to the higher elevations, and in the Appalachians, especially the southern Appalachians. Be extra careful because those mountains tend to squeeze more moisture out because of the upslope flow coming in. The winds hitting the higher terrain. That air condenses and cools, and we get additional precipitation. We've already had reports of flooding along the French Broad River, anywhere in western North Carolina, especially around the Asheville area. There's a possibility of some flooding there, and flood warnings continue to come out. We'll pass them along to you, of course, with the red screens from the Weather Channel. Here we are with the radar, and fortunately quieter around Atlanta today, but still some rain along the I-85 corridor. A little bit drier, though, in Greenville and Spartanburg and Anderson, New York, and the Northeast, where it's very dry. Now the latest on Iris, which is a very strong tropical storm. We're waiting for the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. As of 2, it's near Antigua. Just check the observation out of Antigua. In the past couple of hours, they have had wind gusts to 46 miles an hour, and so far, about 4.5 inches of rain. And that's the big problem. Even south of the center of Iris, a lot of rains causing mudslides and flash flooding. It's moving north at 10 to come get in the next few minutes. Humberto, as of 5, this is the latest now. Winds of 80 miles an hour. They've dropped 5 miles an hour from 85 to 80, and now it's accelerating to the north. It was moving north at 10, now north at 13. The pressure's come up 3 millibars. Here's Tropical Depression 12, also having some problems, possibly from the same shear that Humberto is going to be taking on the next couple of days, because it's moving west-northwest into that same area. Winds of 35 miles an hour. If this were to develop, it would be named Tropical Storm Karen. Right now, I wouldn't bet on it because of the wind conditions and the currents and the steering winds that far out.
Rain has slackened in South Carolina just a bit, but heavier rains are now pounding areas of North Carolina and Virginia. While remnants of Jerry continue to plague the U.S., a tropical storm watch is in effect for the U.S. Virgin Islands, compliments of Iris. Coming up, a look at all the tropical activity, what to expect and when, plus the forecast. Coming up next on Weather Scope. Says some secondary roads remain closed due to bridge washouts, but Interstate 85 has now reopened. In Charleston, South Carolina, driving was treacherous after thunderstorms dumped hefty amounts of rain on that area. More than 12 inches has fallen in South Carolina since yesterday. Scattered showers only aggravate the situation because the grounds are already saturated. As we move to Atlanta, remnants of Jerry are being felt right here in Atlanta. Shoppers have had to deal with the rain as they set out to pick up some fashion goodies and other things. I think she just bought a child or something there. 1 to 3 inches of rain fell around town yesterday, just enough for those outside to keep a slicker and an umbrella handy. Scattered showers are forecast for today. As a matter of fact, we'll check our radar from there in just a moment because rains are moving back into Atlanta, GA. Let's see what's going on. Look at some of these rainfall amounts, folks. This is incredible. Over 15 inches in Greenville. The rain's not over yet. Anderson, over 6 inches. Athens, GA, almost 5 inches. And it's still raining in parts of the Carolinas and into Georgia. Look at this Atlanta radar. That's what's going on right now. The center of Jerry, what's left of the center of Jerry, remnants of Jerry, somewhere in western and central South Carolina. Latest advisory, it's moving north at 10. Pressure has fallen 1 more millibar during the last couple of hours. The winds have gone up 5 miles an hour. And it looks like Iris could attain hurricane strength. It is wild. It is wet. Waves keep moving rapidly westward across Africa into the Atlantic and tend to develop into.
I'm going to take you up to North Carolina. This is Gaston County, and this is pretty much representative of many spots across the Carolinas, particularly the upstate. Just too much rain, as much as 20 inches unofficially in parts of upstate South Carolina. And here in Gaston County, you can see the result. Just flooded fields. Not very good for the first day of school in many spots. And it's going to take a little while for all this rain.
We now have Tropical Storm Luis. It was earlier Tropical Depression number 13, and it has been upgraded as of our 11 o'clock advisories. We aren't updated yet, so I'll stand aside. And that puts it 255 miles north of St. Martin. Sustained winds now at 75 miles per hour. That makes it a minimal hurricane. The pressure is the same as what you're reading there. Central pressure 981, and it's moving north at 9 miles. Impressive. Still a hurricane. Central pressure 75 mile per hour wind. Watching Karen closely here, and I'm getting some brand new coordinates on Karen. Thanks, Jeff. This one moving west-northwest at 13 miles per hour. And again, it's a 17.9 north, 44.9 west. Maximum winds have been upped here a little bit to 50 miles per hour. And this one, too, looking a little more impressive on the satellite picture. So, and this one moving to the west at about 16 miles per hour. Now, kind of interesting.
Developing around the northern island. 30.3, 49.4. Oh, that's far away from any land area. Winds still about 17.0, 45.9, about 1,000 miles or so. 11.7, 31.3, 540 miles off to the southwest of the Cape Verde Islands. Top winds about